Hello, and welcome to Tales for Life. In each episode of this podcast, we'll explore a folk or fairy tale from a different culture or region and discover the life lessons, values, and morals they offer that we can use today. Join me on the journey through the magical and meaningful world of folk and fairy tales. Welcome back to Tales for Life, the podcast that journeys through life one tale at a time. If you haven't already subscribed, now's a great moment to tap that button so you never miss an episode. I'm really glad you're here for this one, because today we're diving into a story that's fun, a little pointed, and absolutely perfect for an episode titled, Do It or Don't. Procrastination. Just saying the word makes most of us wince a little. We all do it, at work, in our relationships, with that task we keep meaning to start, or that conversation we keep meaning to have. We tell ourselves, we'll get to it later. We'll do it when we have more time, more energy, more clarity. And instead of taking even the smallest step, we let it sit, and sit, and sit. But here's the thing. Letting something sit doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it lighter. It doesn't make it go away. It quietly piles on stress, steals mental space, and wears us down. And the real danger is this. Our window to act isn't endless. Opportunities expire. Relationships drift. Moments pass. And when we finally turn toward the thing we've been avoiding, sometimes we discover that the chance to do it has already slipped through our fingers. Which brings us to today's tale. It was collected by the Brothers Grimm and published almost 200 years ago, and features a couple of folks who, well, let's just say, don't want to put a lot of effort into things that need to be done. And, of course, there are consequences for that. It's sharp, it's funny, and it lands exactly where it needs to. This is Lazy Heinz. Heinz was lazy, and although he had nothing else to do but to drive his goat out to the pasture every day, he nevertheless groaned every evening when he returned home after finishing his day's work. "It is in truth a heavy burden," he said, "and a tiresome job, to drive such a goat out to the field year in and year out until late in the fall. If I could only lie down and sleep at it. But no, I must keep my eyes open so it won't damage the young trees or force its way through the hedge into a garden or even run away altogether. How can I get some rest and enjoy life?" He sat down, collected his thoughts, and considered how he could lift this burden from his shoulders. For a long time his thoughts led to nothing, but suddenly it was as if scales were removed from his eyes. "I know what I will do," he shouted. "I will marry Trina. She too has a goat, and she can drive mine out with hers, and then I shall no longer have to torment myself." So Heinz got up, set his weary limbs into motion, and walked across the street, for it was no further than that, to where Trina's parents lived, and asked for the hand in marriage of their industrious and virtuous daughter. Her parents did not think about it for long. Birds of a feather flocked together, they thought, and gave their consent. So Trina became Heinz's wife, and drove out both of the goats. Heinz now enjoyed life, having no work to rest from but his own laziness. He went out with her only now and then, saying, "I'm doing this so that afterwards I will enjoy resting more. Otherwise I shall lose all feeling for it." However, Trina was no less lazy. "Dear Heinz," she said one day, "why should we make our lives so miserable, ruining the best days of our youth when there is no need for it? The two goats disturb our best sleep every morning with their bleating. Wouldn't it be better for us to give them to our neighbor who will give us a beehive for them? We will put the beehive in a sunny place behind the house and then not give it any more thought. Bees do not have to be taken care of nor driven into the field. They fly out and find their way home again by themselves, and they collect honey without any effort at all on our part." "You have spoken like a sensible woman," replied Heinz. "We will carry out your proposal without delay. And furthermore, honey tastes better and is more nourishing than goat's milk, and it keeps longer too." The neighbor willingly gave them a beehive for the 2 goats. The bees flew tirelessly in and out from early morning until late evening, filling the hive with the best honey. Thus, that fall time, Heinz was able to take out a whole jug full. They placed the jug on a shelf on their bedroom wall. Fearing that it might be stolen or that the mice might get into it, Trina brought in a stout hazel stick and put it beside her bed so that she would be able to reach it without having to get up, and then from her place in bed drive away the uninvited guest. Lazy Heinz did not like to get out of bed before noon. "He who rises early," he would say, "wastes his wealth." One morning when he was still lying in the feathers in broad daylight, resting from his long sleep, he said to his wife, "Women are fond of sweets, and you have been snacking on the honey. It would be better for us to exchange it for a goose with a young gosling before you eat it all up." "But not before we have a child to take care of them," replied Trina. "Am I to torment myself with the young geese, wasting all my energy on them for no reason?" "Do you think," said Heinz, "that the boy will tend geese? Nowadays children no longer obey. They do just as they please because they think that they are smarter than their parents, just like that servant who was supposed to look for the cow and chased after 3 blackbirds." "Oh," replied Trina, "he will get it if he does not do what I say. I will take a stick and tan his hide with more blows than can be counted." "See here, Heinz," she shouted in her fervor, seizing the stick that she intended to use to drive away the mice. "See here, this is how I will beat him." She struck forth, unfortunately hitting the jug of honey above the bed. The jug struck against the wall and fell down in pieces. The fine honey flowed out onto the floor. "There lies the goose with the young gosling," said Heinz, "and they do not need to be tended. But it is lucky that the jug did not fall on my head. We have every reason to be satisfied with our fate." Then noticing that there was still some honey in one of the pieces of the jug, he reached out for it, saying quite happily, "Wife, let us enjoy the leftovers, and then we will rest a little from the fright we have had. What does it matter if we get up a little later than usual? The day will be long enough." "Yes," answered Trina, "there is always time enough. You know, the snail was once invited to a wedding and started on his way, but arrived at the child's baptism. In front of the house it fell over the fence and said, 'Haste makes waste.'" Let's take a moment to look back at this tale. Yes, it's a little silly, as folk tales often are, and it definitely echoes some of the themes we explored back in episode 24 of season 1. But it also brings a couple of fresh angles to the idea of procrastination, and they're worth sitting with for a minute. First, even though the story centers on lazy Heinz and his wife Trina, called Fat Trina in the original text, the heart of the lesson isn't really about their personalities. It's about what happens when you keep putting things off. Heinz starts with a goat. He marries Trina and suddenly they have 2 goats. They're moving in the right direction. But their refusal to do the simple, necessary things to care for those goats means they lose them. And no matter how creatively they try to justify the supposed benefits of bees and honey, they've clearly traded down. That's what procrastination does. It erodes the good we already have. But here's the catch. Even after losing the goats, they still have a chance to climb back up, if they just act. All they need to do is trade the honey they've collected for a goose. That's it. One small step. They could have gone from bees to a goose and bees. Instead, they delay again. They wait. They imagine doing it later. And by the time they finally move, the honey jar breaks, the honey spills, and the opportunity is gone. Life hands us chances, often more than one, but what we do or don't do determines whether those chances turn into something real. Heinz and Trina weren't unlucky. They simply refused to act. And that brings us right back to the theme of this episode. Procrastination doesn't just slow us down, it shapes our path. Every time we delay, we're choosing a direction, whether we realize it or not. So the question becomes, are we moving toward the life we want, or letting it slip away by doing nothing? If there's something you've been meaning to start, consider this a friendly nudge. You don't have to overhaul your whole world. Just take one small step. Even a tiny bit of momentum can make everything feel lighter. You've got more in you than you think, and just starting, can open doors you didn't realize were waiting for you. Thanks for spending this time with me today. I'm glad you were here, and I hope you'll join me for the next episode of Tales for Life.